Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. I am so thrilled today to be able to introduce you to five amazing women who are sharing their stories in our next co-authored book called Mastery Unleashed. I have the pleasure and the honor of having worked with hundreds of people over the years. And this book, I feel like this is one of our best books ever. And you're going to be amazed at not only the stories of these women, and we do have a couple men or one man in the book. So I have to be careful that we don't always reference women. So there's a mix of stories on all different topics. And best of all, each one of these experts and authors are going to be sharing an incredible gift, which is like a resource, a free resource with you for all of you that's in our listening audience to be able to not only learn from them by hearing their story and hearing the tips they're going to be sharing through the book that you are going to be talking about a couple times here today, but you're going to be able to access their free resources in our gift vault. So the first thing I want to do is introduce you to Shauna. Shauna is, gosh, she's an incredible woman. She has a whole plethora of experience in the marketing and branding field. And I've gotten to know her quite well over the last year by doing a few things with her. And her story is incredible. So I want to first welcome you, Shauna, and give you the opportunity to share a little bit about your journey and why you decided to share it in our book.
Oh, thank you so much, Christy. This is really exciting to be able to come here and actually share my story for the first time on the written page in an actual book. It's very exciting. Um, Now that said, my story, my chapter, as anybody who's been kind of around me for a little while will know, it's all about marketing, but not just marketing. Being a bit of a rebel in marketing, taking a step outside of the norm and looking at things from a different perspective. This all comes down to my personal experience in the case of this chapter, where you come to terms with yourself as an entrepreneur, and you've come to a point where you've figured it out. I can do this. I'm over the imposter syndrome bit. I'm not scared. I've got the chops. And then you're put into a situation where, holy crap, maybe I don't. And there's a big panic moment. There's a moment when you are not sure. You second guess yourself. You start wiping your hands on your pants a little more often than you usually do. And that's what my story's all about. A moment when that happened to me. Because it's going to happen to you if it hasn't already. And it's important for us to kind of reflect on these moments and just kind of step into them with a little bit of grace, and maybe a little bit of planning too. And that's where this comes into place, right? You're going to reach a point in your journey where you're going to feel those feelings come up again. And if you have a plan in place by maybe learning from someone else who's been there, then you'll be able to take a step forward confidently, knowing, hey, I can be comfortable in my confidence. These are little hints, by the way. Um, we can be comfortable in our confidence. We can market authentically and really step into our authentic power in a way that feels good because we have an understanding that we are never not marketing. I'd like to kind of bring it home to reality because, after all, we all do live here in this place called reality, whether we like to admit it or not. And so we explored things like what is grounded luxury? The luxury of abundance and wealth, of really feeling confident in your own skin, um, within yourself and around yourself, right? It feels very next level. It feels like, I'm going to be driving around in Lamborghinis, living on rooftops and sipping martinis with the top-notch enchiladas, right? Uh, but in this concept, we're kind of looking at that luxury in a very grounded way. We're looking at it in a way that says, hey, we do live in reality. We are going to hit these roadblocks, but we're going to be able to navigate them together with clarity, and in a way that feels true to us, aligned and connected. So if you know that this is something that comes up for you pretty often as an entrepreneur, especially, but as a human being, because we are people first, then this story might just be the guiding light to remind you that you're cool, you're good, you got this, right? So that's the 1-2 nutshell of my chapter.
Great. Oh my gosh. Yes. I read your story and it was definitely incredible. And I really like how the free resource that you're sharing is really, really connected to the support that you, or helping people with the challenges that you face, that now you can support them on their journey. So let's talk a little bit about what your roadmap provides people.
Yes, dream business, dream life, because I do believe that life and business are intricately intertwined. And as a marketer and branding specialist, made sure that I created something that would not only, allow yourself to live life fully, filling your cup first, but also why not organize your launches, streamline your processes, get your everyday marketing, all of those little hens in a line, and maybe plan a vacation or two in between. This roadmap does it all to make sure that your life comprehensively is just clean, crisp, you're confident, you know exactly what's going on and when. Uh, it also comes with a micro training. So that's cool.
It is.
It's really fun. I threw that one in at the end because why not? Because I want to make sure that you succeed and because I know what it's like to live in real life. I'm a human too. We all are. So why not give each other, a leg up?
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Shauna. I know our audience is going to love reading your story and getting the free resource you provide. And I've really enjoyed working with you over the last few months, and I'm excited to continue our journey together.
It was a joy. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, our next author is Alisa Cooper Mueller, and Alisa and I met. Actually, let me go ahead and I gotta navigate these pins a little bit better, and bring Melissa on stage. I met Alisa. Gosh, I think it was like a little over a year from ago now, and we met on a cruise. It was the Podcasters Cruise about 14 months ago. And Alyssa has an amazing story, so much that we don't even have time to talk about it. But she shared a piece of her story in our book, and I can't wait for you all to read it and get to know Melissa. So, Melissa, let's hear your story and why you wanted to share it in our book.
Well, first off, Christy, thank you for the invitation. This is an amazing opportunity to share a part of my life that was ultimately probably the most tragic part of my life that turned into the most beautiful. So when we did meet up, David had just passed about 6 months. And so it's interesting how we intertwined and then now doing this book and how it all just kind of unfolded perfectly. And Shauna, what a beautiful story. I'm getting to know all of you guys on here. It's just, yeah, just amazing. So yeah, my story started a long time ago, obviously, but where it webs into the chapter of this book is that my husband and I were each other's first boyfriend and girlfriends as teenagers. And then back then you didn't have cell phones. There wasn't a lot of ways to stay connected. And so we broke up unofficially, which is interesting. We joke about how we weren't really ever broken up as teenagers. He went to a school an hour and a half north of me, where I met him through my aunt's house. My cousins lived up there, and I was visiting my cousins. We married other people, had families, and then got back together later in life. We had been married for 16 beautiful years. Entrepreneurs. We had 6 very, very well-run businesses that we were managing ourselves as we were living our best lives, just traveling around the world and teaching other people to do the same. And our whole motto was, live a life you don't need a vacation from. And so in our minds and our hearts and our souls, this was our soul's purpose as a couple. And we were doing just that. We were on a cruise in Europe. And our last morning in to Liverpool, my husband, I found him in the shower, and he had had a stroke, brain bleed in 2 parts, and he was still alive when I found him. And he lived for 5 of the most beautiful days in Liverpool under amazing care. Ultimately, he birthed out of his body because of a mistake that a doctor made. And so you can imagine being in a foreign country. I mean, fortunately, they spoke English, so that was good. But being in a foreign country and then having all of those things happen within a 5-day period was very tragic. But everything up until that moment had prepared David and I for that moment. We often talked about death, which is getting to the chapter of what I've contributed to this book. So we had a lot of, when we left our bodies, what it is that we wanted for each other, our family, you know, up to the point of like that David was definitely like, I don't want to be burned, I want to be buried. So a lot of that was already set in place. And the chapter that I'm providing everybody is the planning, because death is a part of life. And although we thought we'd be in our 80s when this happened, and he was 52 and I was 50, we never thought that it would be us being so young. But for the most part, we had everything in place to the tune of having financial stability after the death of my husband. And I've had many people comment as they watched me experience my life without my husband that I thought I would live the rest of my life with, because we were very big on social media. We had a huge platform, a gigantic following. I used Facebook like a diary every day that passed because everybody wanted to know what happened and what was happening. And after a year, I had at least 6 people that were very close to me say, I watched the death of your husband and your life over 12 months' time, and the death of a husband or a wife, and 12 months go by, and it was shockingly different. And the only thing that made the difference was our financial stability. And so I'm very, very passionate about sharing that and how David and I had the forthright, thought process of doing that for each other, so that during the unfathomable, conditions of losing one another, we did not have to worry about money. Money was not an issue. I didn't have to go back to work. I didn't have to, provide resources that I'm scrambling for during the time that I'm healing from the most profound, it's still very painful thinking about it, even though I'm very healed. And I'm so grateful that we did that for each other. And so I don't want anyone to ever go through what I did without that financial stability. So, one of David and my businesses that we ran was teaching people the lifestyle of what the rich know that we don't. And when we find out, a lot of people think it's too good to be true. But David and I followed all of those tools and strategies. And that's why I'm in the position that I'm in, and why we as a couple were in the position we were in before he passed, living a life we didn't need a vacation from.
Yeah, I've seen you over the last year evolve as you went through the healing process and your growth, and then stepping into what you're doing now, not because you had to, but because you want to, and you want to help other people. And it's your give back, Alisa. And I'm honored to know you, and I grow from watching everything you're doing out there. And I really love the resource you're sharing with our audience. So if you want to share a little bit about what that is, I'm sure they'd love to hear.
So basically, when you click on, the fancy little QR code, it just gets you a drop-down menu of your contact information, and you'll get a minimum of 15 minutes with me so that you can share with me what you have in place. Maybe you don't have anything. Maybe you have what Dave and I thought was everything. And after he died, we missed some things that we didn't know. We didn't know the questions to ask. And so I'll just do we'll just go back and forth, and it's a very non-abrasive way for me to help, like Shauna explained, like through my failing forward moments in the thought that I had all the boxes checked and the I's dotted, the T's crossed. There were some things, some holes that David and I didn't have. And so that's my goal, is to help you kind of understand where the blind spots are. And not everything costs money. That's what I think a lot of people think, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much money to do. And there's really a lot of free resources out there to include my experience to give to you. So that's my give back.
Yes, great. So if you're listening to this podcast, and if you haven't bought the book yet, I encourage you to go to Amazon or connect with Alisa or any of our authors and buy an autographed copy of the book. Or go to the link in the show notes and you can have access to all of the resources that all of our authors are providing in the gift vault. So I want to thank you, Alisa. It's been amazing having you in this book, and I look forward to our future together. All right, my next guest is Mendee Williamson. Mendee and I have had the pleasure of knowing each other for probably almost 2 years now, maybe about a year and a half. And Mendee has an amazing story. She's been on an incredible journey. I like when you said, Alisa, failing forward. I think we all fail forward in some way, shape, and form. And Mendee is taking her experience, and she is really passionate about helping a certain group of people. And Mendee's going to share a little bit about that and her story. So welcome, Mendee.
Hi, thank you. First, I want to say that the women in this book, and the man, of course, everyone in this book is amazing and so inspiring. And I've enjoyed all the stories. So I'm glad to be included in that. I want to say to Alisa, our stories are similar. And I applaud you for telling your story, because I've learned through my experience how important it is to tell your story and share it, and that's a very important part of the healing process. So it gives me chills when I hear other people tell their story. So my story, I married my high school sweetheart, and we were together for 27 years and built the life that we wanted. We had a plan and we stuck to it, and we did everything that we thought was right. He became very successful in his career, and I decided to be a stay-at-home mom, and we had 3 beautiful children, and I enjoyed every minute that I had with them. And then, our life was perfect. Couldn't complain. Everything was great. And then COVID happened. And during COVID, my husband got sick, struggled with COVID. We thought he was getting better. But at that time, we didn't know enough about what was really happening to everyone when they got sick. And so we thought he was getting better, but now I know that he was suffering from long COVID. I've learned a lot about that. But honestly, we thought he was getting better. Everything was kind of getting back to normal. He was going back to work, and things, looked good. And then one Saturday, he just collapsed. We were in the living room and he just collapsed. And I called 911, did CPR, did my best to save him, but there was nothing I could do to save him. He was only 47, and he had a lot of dreams and goals ahead of him. And so it was really hard to see that go away. And then it was really hard to look at my children and say that, he was gone. So during this process, I was shocked. I was scared. I was a stay-at-home mom. I hadn't worked in 20 years. Our finances were in a good place. So like Alisa said, it's important to get all of your things in order. But when you're 40, you don't really think you have time. You think you have a lot of time to get all of that stuff done. And we had a lot of it done, but not everything. And so it was very difficult for me. And it's very hard to look at your resume and see that you haven't worked in 20 years and try to go out and look for a job. And they say, well, what have you been doing? And it's kind of a wake up call. And so I really had to do a lot of soul searching, a lot of therapy, made some great friends in my grief group. And it really encouraged me to help other people. In my experience, I was young. I consider myself young when he passed. I didn't know anybody else my age that had lost their husband. No one really knew how to help me. And I feel like I couldn't find my people. I felt lost. I felt kind of alone. And so when I found a group of people that kind of understood me and what I was going through, that's when I really started learning. Like, I just wanted to learn everything I could about grief. I took a course on grief education, became a grief educator, where I can help other people, not only help people that are in grief, but to help those that are going through grief. The things to do, the things not to do, the things not to say, just some of the things that nobody talks about. I think there's a lot of things around grief that people just don't talk about. They want to avoid it or not talk about it. So what I want to do is I really want to help those, not only the people in grief, but people that are just going through a tough transition, whether it's divorce, grief, maybe they've lost a job, any sort of transition where you're trying to figure out life and what to do next. Those are the people I really want to help, because you're in this fog and you feel alone and you need help and you need a way to find your way out and to figure out who you are, because you're not the same person. And so my goal is to just help those people kind of get clarity on who they are and what they want. And it really is, it takes some time. It takes a lot of work and it's hard. And I'm not saying there's a magic pill to get over it, but it is possible to find your life again and to really make a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I met you, I just saw your strength, right? What you had gone through and the determination that you had to help others. And so you have an amazing resource, and it's a quiz to help people. So you want to talk about your resource?
Well, I wanted to make it fun because sometimes talking about grief is really depressing. So I made a fun little quiz just to really see if you are ready to make the hard decisions and to help make changes. Because sometimes you're not ready, and that's okay, because it does take some time to get to that place where you want to ask for help. And so anyway, I made a quiz just to kind of see where you're at on your journey. And if you are ready to make some changes and to really do the soul searching, then I would love to have people, make an appointment with me. I would give them a free coaching session. Love to talk to them and see where they're at and see how I can help them.
Awesome. That is so generous of you, Mendee. Yes, because sometimes when you're in a situation like that, you don't know where to turn, right? You don't know who can help you. And if anybody is relating to your story, there's so much that you can do to help them, because they can recognize that you know what they're going through and that you're probably better equipped to help them than somebody that just has the training and hasn't actually experienced that. So I appreciate your willingness to spend time with our audience if anybody wants to reach out to you. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
All right, well, I want to bring Dee Murphy up yet next. And Dee and I connected probably only about 6 months ago. But Dee is an incredible woman, and she has a really, really strong passion to help a certain segment of women based on her life experience. And so, Dee, do you want to share a little bit about that? Because it's very unique, and I love the group of people that you're dedicated to helping.
Thanks a lot, Christy. You're right. We met about 6 months ago. And my story, I'll tell a little bit about what I do first, and then I'll tell my story. But I wrote this chapter under Diane, but I'm known professionally as Dee Murphy, and I'm a life architect. And I help women veterans in particular to reclaim their strength and navigate life after service, because most have faced hidden battles with burnout, identity shifts, and a loss of connection to their deeper purpose. Basically, they became somebody different when they entered the military or entered the corporate world. And then when they moved on, they couldn't figure out what to do or how to be. And so I help them leverage their unique strengths to create a thriving business and life filled with stability, income, and fulfillment. And essentially, it came about because I'm a veteran. And have you ever felt like life was asking you to choose between yourself and others? That's exactly where I found myself. I was at a crossroads when I got out of the Navy. And amazingly, I couldn't even find a job as a nurse. And I was a registered nurse and still am. But I was told in the civilian community that, oh, we're uncomfortable hiring you because you were in the military. And that was a big shock. And so that started me looking at, wow, what's going on in my life? I eventually found great work in the VA as a nurse, but I still continue to look at my life options. And I decided I was ready to chase some long-held dream and proceed get my degree as a chiropractor. I was accepted into the program, and I felt like I was stepping into the future. And then all of a sudden, life kind of got in the way and changed my mind. I had a partner. He wanted to also further his education and said that we couldn't afford for both of us to go to school while raising our 3 children. He had financial backing from his parents to pursue his goals. And I made the difficult decision to put his dreams ahead of mine, believing there'd be time for mine later. And so I continue to work and support our family. And the same old story. We eventually got divorced, and I don't regret supporting him because the choice was rooted in love and responsibility. But it taught me a powerful lesson, just like when I got out of the military, is putting everybody else first is admirable, but it comes at the expense of losing yourself. And in the military, I kind of lost who I was because I had to become somebody to fit into the male aspect of service. So the decision and getting out of the service changed how my life happened. I didn't become a chiropractor. I got a doctorate in health administration, and I embraced a new purpose, helping others navigate their crossroads or their transitions with clarity and courage. I transformed my experience of self-sacrifice into a profound understanding of how critical it is for women to prioritize their needs and dreams alongside those of others. And today I channel that lesson into my work with women veterans and leaders. I help them uncover beliefs and patterns that keep them stuck in roles that others have defined for them. And I empower them to reclaim their sense of purpose. So essentially, Christy, my life as a veteran and civilian life afterwards was a big deal. I found that when I got out of the military, I wasn't recognized as the veteran. The man with me was. When I was talking to women and moving ahead with my civilian career, I was often told that I was too bold, too strong, too dominant as a woman, and I didn't fit in. People didn't know what to do with me as a person, and even as I told you, as a nurse, I didn't fit in well. So I'm here to work with women who have been in what I call male-dominated professions or fields, like women veterans, and even corporate leaders, because we often are criticized when we change how we act to fit into a role, to get ahead, to be successful, and then we lose that feminine side of us that people are expecting. So my transition became my current job, and my current profession is working with women veterans and leaders to help them move forward in their lives and to get unstuck.
Yeah. I like to kind of summarize the majority of the people I work with in sharing their story is that their mess became their mission. And you spent years helping other people accomplish their dreams, and now you're accomplishing your dreams and you're helping others do the same. So I give you a big shout out, Dee, because I know how passionate you are to help women that have really been in male dominated careers reclaim themselves. And you have a great resource that you're going to be sharing with our audience as well. So do you want to talk about your checklist?
I do. I have a daily checklist, and it includes some things that you might not have thought about. And if you follow this every day, it will lead you to making changes in your life. And what I want you to know is that as you do these and you stick to them, you will begin to see your life unfold. And the other piece, I am available for consults. And I have that contact information at the beginning of the form, at the bottom of the form, so that feel free to reach out and mention this podcast, and I'll give you a free consultation as well.
Oh, that is so generous. I appreciate that, G. Thank you for being a part of this project, and I look forward to continuing our journey together. Now I want to bring up Julie. So I would say last but not least, because Julie is amazing. Like, she is an incredible woman that has spent many, many years, just like most of us here, that and just like Dee's story, helping other people accomplish their dreams. And so Julie is now focused, or has been focused for a while, but the story she shared is about her journey with homeschooling. So Julie, you want to share about your journey, please?
Yes, and thank you, Christy. Christy and I met just in October,
Yeah,
and
months ago.
yes, and before I knew it, I'm an author, and I'm on a podcast with other women who have done things that may have been a stretch for them. But my journey started before the internet, and I had my children, and my sister had said, oh, they were going to homeschool. And I literally thought, she must be Looney Tunes. Why would a Phi Beta Kappa waste their education? And who wants to spend all day with their kids? Don't you want a life? I also was a critical care nurse specializing in open heart surgery, and I got validation when I got that paycheck. And I was competent at what I did. So I didn't really know what to do. Well, eventually, the more I explored, the more I realized that it wasn't could I do something? It was, did I want to live a life of regret, wishing that I had done something instead of just staying safe. And so there weren't lots of resources available. As I said, this is before the internet, but we made the decision to start homeschooling. Lots of challenges we did not expect, like were we going to lose employment? Were we going to lose other things? We did not have one person supporting us in this except my sister.
Mm.
And we didn't even know people doing this. So anyway, one thing led to another, and nothing went smooth. Nothing went easily. I mean, I thought to myself, how difficult can this be? My kid's 5. Well, guess what? He couldn't learn the alphabet. And then if you can't learn the alphabet, it's really hard to learn to read. And just all sorts of challenges. Well, eventually we found resources, and it wasn't easy. But what I came to discover was that the homeschool mom is just like every other mom. They love their children. And because they love their children, they're looking for what they think will be the best for them. And sometimes they don't know that there's resources that can be available for them. They're not content with where they are. They're not content with what's going on. Is their child not being tended to? Are they not happy with the options that are available? Would they like to do more? Does their child have health issues? Do they want to travel? We did traveling. We went a number of places around the world. They can call that world schooling now. And guess what? If you homeschool, you don't have to go during school vacation. You can go when it's a lot cheaper. But so what ended up happening was, out of default, there's always somebody just a little bit behind you. And out of default, we began working with homeschool parents. And what I discovered was that the homeschool mom is someone who's stepping out of her comfort zone to do something for which there is no training, because she loves her children. She doesn't necessarily love her children more than somebody else, but she is willing to do, there's something nudging her to say, I want to try something more. And so we made it our purpose that we don't want to ever see somebody who feels like they're trapped with educational options that aren't all that they want to see for their child and their family. And so we came alongside as homeschool mentors, and we have care homeschool coaching. And what we do with that is we help mentor people. We don't solve all their problems for them. We help them assess where they are and where they want to be. And we do that through giving them practical information, practical suggestions, encouragement, and most of all, hope. Because all of us want to end up with children who are mature, independent thinkers who are fun to be around. And so anyway, the story in the book is about our journey. We never expected it to be what it was, but now my one of my children is homeschooling my grandchildren, and the other one is technically employed, but is still homeschooling.
Yeah. So, Julie, one of the things when we had our very first conversation that I just thought was incredible that I would have never have thought of is that whole topic of college education and the cost around it.
Yeah.
And there, as a homeschooling parent and as a child that has gone through the homeschooling process, it doesn't have to be as costly as traditionally we think it has to happen out of public schools or even private schools. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because your resource is going to be really helpful for people, and especially if they hear this concept that they may not have thought of, they might want to take you up on your offer.
Many people will feel they've done their validation of their parenting is that their child gets into college. And college isn't necessarily the best match for every child. I have children who have, between 3 children, there's 6 degrees. And, but we did college without debt. We didn't allow our children to do debt, even for their graduate degrees. Well, they were on their own by then. But I did college with almost no debt. And there's many, many other ways that you can explore options. In fact, if you want to earn a six-figure income, college is probably the last choice that you want to pick, because and we are not anti-college, but we were anti-indoctrination and anti-debt. And so we wanted, one of the things that will make your child employable is being employed. And so lots of ways that they can run their own businesses. My kids had their own businesses. And They ran businesses and they earned more money doing that than by working for someone else. So entrepreneurship and trades and lots of other things where you can be gaining a six-figure income. The trades are one area where there's not enough people to do the work, and you cannot outsource plumbing to China. You can outsource electrical work to somewhere else. So if you want, my father was an electrical engineer, and when he was living in Indonesia and we were visiting him, and he would travel around different places with his little gauges and different things, he was welcome everywhere because he knew how to fix things. And so anyway, that is just the idea that people can explore other options for their children for when they are launching. And college does not prepare your children to launch. It's just delayed adolescence for the majority of times. And so if you want your child to be prepared to launch, then what are the things that you need to be doing in advance? And that's one of the things that we like. I mean, I love talking to people about this because many times they haven't thought about it. And it's not that we have the perfect answers. They have their own unique family. So they can work on finding what works best for them. But a lot of times as parents, we're so caught up in the everyday. We're caught up in the dailiness of life.
Yes.
That we forget this season will end, and will our children be prepared to function as adults?
Yes. And so you're sharing a don't panic session with our audience. So briefly, you want to just describe what that will be for them?
Well, in homeschooling, there's lots of ways to feel like you're on the ledge. And we love to help people get off the ledge. We've been involved in that world for going on 40 years. And so being able, we've encountered, you know what, if everything went well, we would never have been able to have such an encouraging approach to so many people. It's because we've had all sorts of problems and all sorts of challenges. So we're not really fazed by different things. And so coming up with practical things so that what what is the situation that's causing the panic?
Yeah.
Well, still a session and let's get you off the ledge.
Yes, awesome. Yes, we don't want anybody on a ledge, that is for sure. And so this concludes this episode of Master Unleashed and the first group of amazing co-authors that are a part of the Mastery Unleashed book, which is the first book in a series of Unleashed books. And so I want to thank all of you amazing women for being a part of this project, being on this show today, sharing your story, sharing your wisdom, and sharing your resources. And I want to encourage all of our audience, if you want to learn anything about any of our amazing team of authors, please reach out to them. I know they would love to connect, support you in whatever way they can. I'm sure they'd love to send you an autographed copy of their book. So reach out to them for that as well. And check out our gift vault because all of the resources they provide will be a great way for you to start that connection, get one resource, and I'm sure some of them may have other amazing resources to share with you. So this concludes today's episode of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. Make sure you stick with us for the next 2 episodes as we introduce even more incredible people. And then, of course, if you love our show, please go to whatever platform you listen and show us some love, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts. They named it something different now. It used to be iTunes, but Apple Podcasts, go there and make sure you follow our show. And if you absolutely love any of our episodes, leave us a review because the more reviews we have about the particular details of our show, the better chances we have of future listeners decide to be a part of it because they're going to hear the amazing things about the great content we provide. So until the next show, we're wishing you well. Unleash your mastery on the world. Go out there, make a difference, and we will see you next time. So thanks, everybody. Bye-bye for now.